We started with OSM. Yeah, quick overview of what we discussed till now. So first session we discussed OSM model, then we move to the switching and routing concept. It's a little bit introduction of switch router. Then we'll move to the we discussed about the VLAN concept, entire thing, and trunk port. We discussed and access port, then inter-VLAN routing. After then we discussed about the DTP concept. If you have any queries, ask me. Meanwhile, we'll discuss. Today's topic is VTP. So again, a VTP also regarding the VLAN concept only here. So till we are discussing layer 2 protocols only in switching protocols only. So in switching protocol, one of the function we have, one of the process we have, VTP process. So it's kind of protocol. VTP stands for VLAN trunking protocol. So I'll give you some brief about in real-time environment, what will happen. So you can assume we have a hundreds of department. So each department, we need a particular VLAN for each department. So based on that departments also, based on that VLAN, we have a future like it will be isolated to different VLAN. They cannot communicate to each other. Apart from that, we can reduce the switches bandwidth also. So by default, switch having a single bandwidth broadcast domain, single broadcast domain. When we created some multiple VLANs means it will be segregated. It will be divided that many broadcast domains. So VLAN stands for virtual local area network. What we'll do, it's in switches, single broadcast domain, it will be by default happen. So that single broadcast domain, we are dividing like multiple broadcast domains. So we can achieve with the based on that. So CPU utilization and we can isolate the traffic and single VLAN, this VLAN 10 cannot communicate with another VLAN by default. So how many departments we have, that many VLANs we can create. So that all are about the VLAN. Now move to VTP. So VTP, it is a process, it is a protocol where we can achieve. So it will create at only one switch. In this switch, will create hundreds of VLAN. It will be propagate to how many access switches, how many LAN switches. These are our LAN switches. You can assume like this is a one switch, this is a second switch, and fourth switch, fifth switch. Here we have in our LAN segment hundreds of switches by default. In data center, you can assume in branch networks. If you are working in complex network, one organization or wherever you are working, there we have multiple users, mean we require a multiple switches. So each switch we cannot create like hundreds of VLANs. We cannot create. So the if we are creating 100 VLAN in this switch, 100 VLAN, so same VLANs we should have to create 100 VLANs in this switch. So 100 VLANs in this switch. So it will be time taking process. It will be time taking process in this switch 100 of VLANs. In this switch 100 of VLANs. So we have a requirement for that. We have a requirement. How many switches are there? That many VLANs we should have to create. Each switch we have to log in and we have to create VLAN. We have to give a name for that VLAN, whichever the name for the description and all. So it will be time taking process and errors also it will be happen. So for that, what we'll do, we'll create any core switch or any distribution switch, any master switch, and in that switch will take it as like it is a server. The master switch act as like server. The server, what it will be do, propagate the VLAN information to all the client switches. All the client switches, it will propagate. I'll create the hundreds of VLAN in this switch only. In this master switch only, I'll create. This master switch responsibility is to distribute that VLAN information to entire our access switches. So here with the VTP, with the help of VTP, we are reducing our time. So we are reducing our management, whichever our administrative work also we are reducing. So errors also we are reducing. So for that, some requirements are there. We have to create same domain. Domain name is must match. If you are creating ABC domain name or Cisco domain name, any name, you can HP domain name or any name you can take here. If you are taking HP as a domain name, here you should have to take in this entire switches HP. Domain name is HP. If domain name is mismatched, then they cannot propagate. They cannot share VLAN information. They cannot share VLAN information. No, no neighborship, no peer happen, no neighborship will be originated. So make sure, ensure the domain name is must match. Apart from that, if we are configuring the password, then password should be matched. If we are not configuring password, no issue. For security reason, we have to configure it. So by default, so this is a server switch and this one is a client switch. Any hacker came, he attached one switch and he don't, if we configure a password, he cannot do anything. If we are not configuring the password, so he can access our VLAN information. He will get VLAN information. So that is the reason we have to configure it. It will be match. It has to match. But domain name should be matched. Domain name should be matched. If domain name is mismatched, then no negotiation will be happen. No propagation will be happen. Then no VLAN sharing will be happen. They will not share VLAN information. Apart from that, in VTP, whenever they are sending the messages, that every 300 seconds it will be sent. That is periodical. And triggered update also, periodical message it will be sent and triggered update also. Triggered means any VLAN changes occur. We configured something. So that time also it will be sent. Every 5 minutes, it will be sent the entire VLAN information. Apart from that, if we configured anything, if we changed anything, that time also it will be sent the VLAN information. So it will be by default periodic update and triggered update also. So this is all about the VTP, VLAN trunking protocol, and VTP is a Cisco proprietary again. In Cisco devices only it will work. It is a Cisco proprietary. Like yesterday we discussed DTP also Cisco proprietary and VTP also Cisco proprietary. And make sure in between switches, whenever you are configuring, trunk should be enabled. If you are not enable the trunk, so trunk it means trunk port. Of course, it will be carry the multiple mute yourself. It will be carry the multiple VLAN information. So if you are not enabled trunk, then also VTP will not work. You should have to enable trunk port in between switches. So here some theory is there. So VTP stands for VLAN trunking protocol used to share VLAN configuration. Again, here it will be share the VLAN information only. It will be not share whichever ports we assign the ports. So here we assign access ports. This is the access port and for F0 by 0. And this is the access port and F0 by 1. It won't share this port number and all. We have to configure again. So It means, see, in our LAN segment, port will be changed, right? Ports, this will be fast Ethernet 0 by 1 or something. So that is the reason it have not support the port and all port configuration. But whichever the VLAN information we can add, we can delete, we can modify, it will be it will be propagate only VLAN dot file only. VLAN dot file. VLAN dot file only. By default, in Cisco devices or any devices, we have a VLAN file, that is VLAN dot file. The VLAN configuration, VLAN information only it will be shared. Apart from that, it will be not share the port numbers and whichever you are configuring access port or trunk port. It won't share that all information. It will be share only VLAN information. So number two, so it will be use it to share VLAN configuration with multiple switches. Yes, and VTP is a Cisco proprietary, as we discussed. It's a Cisco devices only. It will work in Cisco devices only. Maintain consistent of VLAN database can be difficult in large switching environment. So we have to maintain. We have to create the in large switching environment, whichever the big size of environment are large companies. Oh, so we have to create it. It will be difficult. Somehow it will be difficult. So here we have a VTP concept. So let's say you have a network with 10 switches or 50 VLANs. That time it will be difficult. So we have VLAN concept, VTP concept to VT through VTP. We can propagate VLAN information. So normally you would have to configure each switch separately and create those VLANs on each and every switch. So we are reducing, we have to configure each and every switch. We have to log in at CLA mode and create VLAN 10, VLAN 20, VLAN 30, VLAN 40. If you have hundreds of VLANs, we have to each and every VLAN we have to create, and we have to give the name and all, assigning the name and all. It is a difficult process. So that is the reason we have a VTP. VTP will let you create a VLAN on one switch and all other switches synchronize themselves. When once we'll create the one at in this switch, it will be synchronized to all the switches. The VLAN information, it will be synchronized to all the switches. What if company decide to add new department to your office? Though if you are we are adding the new department also, it is difficult. So just we'll already we have assigned here VLAN something. Otherwise, we can assign the VLANs. It will propagate to and every switch. It will propagate to every switch. They can communicate to this department also. New department came here, so they want to communicate this different department. So here it will propagate that VLAN information to this switch also. Without VTP, you have to go to each switch. We have to go and we have to and every switch. VTP required that all the participate switches join VTP domain. Yes, VTP domain name means, just now we discussed, the VTP domain name must match. The domain name is must match and password is must match. If password or domain name, mute yourself, guys. So here, if mismatch the details of password or domain name, they won't propagate the information. It will be not joined in VTP domain. It will be basically it will be not joined in VTP domain. So switches must belongs to the same domain to share VLAN information, and switch can only belongs to same single domain. If we have a single, this is a single domain, and we have another domain, you can create how many domains you required in a branch only or in different branches. So you can create name wise. branch wise, you can give the name. Then we can isolate the VTP information also. So just change the domain name. The domain name purpose is whichever the branch, they cannot share that individual branch information to other branches. That is the reason we are isolating the VTP information also here through domain name. So trunking, VTP similar in this management or update to the VLAN database or propagate to all switches using VTP administrator. So VTP manage the addition and deletion and renaming VLAN across the network from a central point of control, maintain consistency throughout the network. So as we discussed, here we can delete the VLAN. If we don't need some VLANs, through here only we can delete. If we want to modify something on VLAN name, or we have to change something name on that, yes, we can modify also. If you want to create some VLAN, yes, we can create on this server switch only. It will be possible on server switch only. If you are trying to configure something at client switch, it won't accept. I will discuss that thing. At client switch, and here we have a different modes where we'll configure VLAN and where we'll edit, where we'll do that. Here we have a different modes, client mode, server mode, and apart from that, transparent mode. Three modes we have. We'll discuss those things. This is the basic of VTP. This is all about the basic of VTP. And here we have a three modes. VTP having three modes. One is server mode and server switch, and client mode, client switch, like transparent switch. So in VTP, server are responsible for creating, deleting, and modifying entries in the VLAN database default mode, and it is a default mode also. And Cisco switches, each VTP domain must have at least one VTP server. So in VTP, we have a mode, that is three modes we have. By default mode is server. In this server mode only, we can create the VLANs, we can modify the VLANs, we can delete the VLANs. But in client mode, we cannot modify, we cannot modify, we cannot delete, we cannot renaming, but it will be relay on that advertisement. So what does that mean? So here I'm taking three switches. This is a server switch, and this one is the transparent switch, and this one is a client switch. So connected likewise. So this one is server and server switch, and this one is a transparent and this one client switch. Switch is a switch of one. I cannot be it's switch two, and this is a switch three. So what will be happen? So basically, what VTP will be do? Propagate the VLAN information. It will be propagate the VLAN information. If we have multiple switches also, if in the server switch, whichever we are creating or deleting or anything we are doing, any changes we are doing in this server switch, so it will be propagate VLAN information to every switch. How many switches are attached? It will be propagate VLAN information. And this client switches and server switches, what they will do, we'll discuss. Here we can delete in this server mode. In we can modify, we can change anything we required, and we can do here. And by default mode is server. By default mode is server. This is a by default mode in switches. I'll show you in lab again. Once it will be here received, then it will propagate that VLAN information. I have created 100 VLANs. I have created 100 VLANs. These all are the VLANs with the name. These all are the 100 VLANs. It will be propagate. So it will be received. Once it will be received, it will be sent to another switch. It won't install in this switch. It will be not installed because it is a transparent mode. Again, in this transparent mode, whichever we are creating VLAN himself only, it won't propagate. It will be not sent to another one. Just whichever he received the VLAN 100, it will be sent that VLANs only. It will be not send those VLAN in this switch having. Whichever we are creating in this switch, it won't propagate. It won't send to neighbor. So once client will receive, here he will install that 100 VLANs. This 100 VLANs, this switch will install, but here it will be not installed directly. He will not open also the packet, which information. It will be directly sent to neighbor.
No.
And do you have any questions?
Sorry.
So if you have any questions, ask me. Fine. So here you can check. We have a, it will be transparent switch. What it will be do? It will be simply send that VLAN information. And in transparent switch, we can create and we can delete and we can modify the VLAN information. We can delete and we can create and we can modify the VLAN information. But whichever we are creating these VLANs, if 20 VLANs we have created here, this VLAN information, it won't propagate. So in some scenarios, we have like some interesting traffic or some restricted traffic. Like we have a one server. In this server, it's kind of 100 VLANs we have. So this is all are the restricted VLANs. So we should not have to send to another switches. So that time we'll configure transparent switch. So whichever the restricted traffic we have, restricted VLAN, that traffic or that VLANs we cannot share to our neighbors. That time we'll configure. But transparent switch, it will propagate, it will be relay that information to neighbors. So again, in this client mode, we cannot delete VLANs, we cannot modify VLANs, we cannot add any VLANs, we cannot create any VLANs. So just it will be received, and if someone also attached our client or server, it will be sent to neighbors. It will be sender. It will be propagate that information. But here we cannot modify, here we cannot delete, here we cannot changes also. Only server and transparent mode only we can create and we can delete, we can modify the VLAN information. At client, no, we cannot modify, we cannot delete. So in VTP, we have a three types of three versions we have: version 1 and version 2 and version 3. So the mostly though both are the same. These are the legacy versions. And what is the only difference in VLAN 1 version 1 and version 2, VTP version 1 and version 2? The difference is it will be not support token ring concept. Token ring, we have a legacy concept, but it will be support token ring. That is a switching concept, token ring. So it will be not support and it will be support token ring. Apart from that, some another features also are there. But VTP version 3, when we are configuring MSTP, that time it will be support MSTP. And Here we private VLANs also it will support private VLAN. We can, with the help of private VLAN, we can isolate within a VLAN also. Within a VLAN, if the requirement is there, VLAN 10, you have a VLAN 10. In that VLAN 10, if you want to deny some traffic on that only, yes, we can deny also. So in this private VLAN, so it will be support. So these all are the only standard range only support up to 1005. This is a standard range VLAN, but VLAN version 3 will support extended range also. Extended range also. So 4095 something VLANs we have extended range from 1006 to 4095. It will be support entire VLAN, but version 1 and version 2, it will be support up to a standard range zone, standard range VLAN zone. So these are all about the VLAN, VTP, sir, VTP. So this is the configuration part, and this is a, so VTP client cannot modify VLAN database and rely on advertisement. Yes, it will be relay advertisement, whichever the VLAN information he will got, it will be sent to neighbor switches, other switches. Yes, it will be sent other switches that update of VLAN information. So a client will also forward VTP advertisement out every trunk. So it will be forward out every trunk. So VTP transparent mode switch maintain its own local database. It will be maintain its own local database. So as we discussed, it will maintain own database. So whenever the restricted traffic is there with restricted VLANs like server VLANs, that time will configure. So does not directly participate in the domain, VTP domain. It will be does not participate indirectly. So a transparent switch will never accept VLAN database information from another switches. It will be not accepted. Yes, it will be not accept, and it will be not store in VLAN database. So only client will store the information. Only client will store the information from whom it is getting, from server it is getting. So these are the three modes only we have. This is a configuration part. Domain name we have to configure, and password and version, whichever version. And here packet tracer will support version 1 and version 2 only. Version 3 it will be not support. So we'll configure version 1 or version 2 configuration part. If you have any queries related to, ask me. We'll discuss. Otherwise, we'll move to the lab.
Hi, Alam. You said that in transparent it doesn't save the information and just send to the client server, and we are able to edit the information within the transparent.
Yes, we can edit it
Um,
by
yeah,
itself only, not that.
why don't it save the information which is received from server? Like
So that
without
is only,
saving,
that
how
is
can
what.
we edit that?
So without saving means we that this 100 VLAN is not storing. This VLAN not storing means we cannot edit that VLAN information also. How you will edit? Once it will be stored, then only you can edit. Whichever we are creating in this transparent switch, 20, as I mentioned here, 20 VLANs we are creating. In this 20 VLANs only we can modify, we can delete. If we want to create more, yes, you can create. The database, the transparent itself only, it won't share that information also. It won't share to any switch. So even though server also it will be not stored. It will be not sent. Only it will be relay that information. Whichever the information he is getting, he will relay that information only. If directly it will be relay. It won't see what in that packet. Just it will be sent through another switch, whichever directly connected through trunk ports. If
Okay,
he is a
got
client,
it.
if he is a client, he will accept. If it is a transparent, again connected, transparent switch, it won't accept. It will not accept that VLAN information also. If one more client is connected, then the client only accept. It will be just relay that information.
Okay. just transferring the information without
Yes.
making any act on it.
Name itself you can see transparent.
Yeah,
Name itself
got it.
transferring the information. Okay. So the main concept of VLAN, VTP is just VLAN information we are sending to neighbors. VLAN information only VLAN information through trunk ports. Through trunk ports. So necessary is make sure trunking is enabled. If you are not enable the trunk, then it won't work also. So basically, as we know, trunk port will be carry the multiple VLAN information. Based on that, it will be work. So stop this recording. If you have any questions, ask me. We'll start lab.